Hello, Olivier. Welcome to the fifth edition of the Data Innovation Summit. We're glad to have you with us today. To start with, please tell us a bit more about yourself and Henkel.
Thank you, Ivana. Thank you also for having me and for giving me the chance to talk about data and innovation, which I'm super passionate about. About myself, I joined Henkel about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I'm supervising what you could name the strategic aspects of analytics within Henkel. Mm-hmm. So my job is to make Henkel more data-driven, to, let's say, data enable the organization. We're doing this with my team by running pilots, developing prototypes, just to show the benefits of data-driven decision-making and to inspire the colleagues in terms of what data is giving away. Good. And at the same time, we're also providing some training, upskilling, so that our colleagues also get a feeling for themselves on what they could be doing in the future more autonomously.
Right. So the second question is regarding your presentation of the Data Innovation Summit. Your topic was regarding trend detection using social media data. How did your data-driven transformation initiative actually start? And what was the reason that inspired Henkel to start collecting and analyzing social media data?
Okay, so for the first part of your question, I have to say that social media data is only one of the sources that we use, right? So data-driven transformation is a much bigger topic, and social media data is one element. And I have to say that before I joined the team, we're already collecting social media data. We had social listening platforms in place, and data was already there. But as the term implies, it was only about social media listening. So that's about tracking what people are saying about our brands, about other brands, about specific topics.
Yeah.
And shortly after I joined Henkel, I was in a meeting where executive VP said, yeah, social media is good, but actually what I am interested in is trying to identify new trends, to foresee what could be happening, what are the things emerging from social media, so that I have a better understanding of what could be happening in the future in terms of wellness, lifestyle, sustainability, and so on. So when I heard about this, this requirement, I picked up this idea and I started looking within the data that we already have in these places, in these platforms, and also tapping into additional sources, data sources that we had. And the result was a concept or tool that I'm describing in my presentation at the Data Innovation Summit. And to answer the second part of your question, the inspiration really came from that business issue, you know, from something that was really an executive, a top executive was really keen to solve. And I think that this should always be the source or the starting point from any analytics or data-driven initiative
Yeah.
or program. The business is what everything starts with.
The business use case. Right.
Exactly, or the
Right.
business question, or
Right.
the pain
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that somebody in the business, be
Mm-hmm.
it top executive or someone in R&D, in marketing, has on their mind.
No, great insight for all companies. So the change of company culture is also part of the data-driven transformation. Could you tell us how the whole process of instilling that data-driven culture in your company went?
Yeah, so first of all, I really have to highlight that we are in the middle of this journey, right? So
Right.
I cannot tell you the full story about that. And in general, for a company like Henkel, we have more than 50,000 employees. Instilling a data-driven culture is not something that can happen within a couple of months or 1 or 2 years. It's going to be a much longer endeavor for us, a much longer journey. But I see three phases in this journey. The first one is about reducing the fear of data. So you know, in a large organization, not everybody is an analyst, right?
Yeah.
People are not so familiar with the data, and many of my colleagues perceive data as something for geeks, something for IT people, for analysts, or for technicians in general. And our role, or in that first phase, the objective is really to prove, to demonstrate that data are actually everyone's friends, right? And that we can do so much with data, that using data has many benefits in terms of one's own efficiency, or in the sense of making better decisions and creating value for the company. So in that first phase, we invested a lot of effort in demonstrating this very idea of the value of data by running these pilots, developing prototypes, MVPs, so that people have an idea or on the value of data, and I can actually grasp it, you know, so that they can answer, okay, what's in for me. So this was in the first stage. The second phase is a direct consequence of the first one. It's about enabling the colleagues to do this kind of stuff on their own. So you know, once they believe in the value of data, my team, or in general, IT departments maybe, or analytics center of excellence or departments can be a bit too small. So it has to be carried further by the business themselves, so that they are more autonomous in the consumption of data and running analytics projects. And this requires two things. One is more on the technical side. It's about developing an infrastructure that allows people who are interested in the data to access the data, to access trusted data. And so this is something we started to deliver about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, in the form of an analytics platform, right? That ultimately enables users to fetch the data that they need and do stuff on their own. The other aspect is more on the people side, is that we need also to upskill the organization to provide them with the right skills and methodologies to extract value from data. So we're offering training, and we have a digital upskilling initiative at Henkel. But one thing that I think did particularly well is that we offered a Python training. Mm-hmm. It started with roughly 15 people here in Amsterdam in our supply chain organization. And now we're already into the 6th course. And after that session, I believe that we will have about 300 alumni who have been through that course. Now, that does not mean that we want everyone in the organization to be coders, right? And Python is, even though it's a high-level language and probably easier to learn than many others, it's still rather technical. So it's by no means our objective to turn everyone into a coder. But this example showed us that with the right setting, if you do this on a voluntary basis, the desire to learn new languages and to be upskilled on their own is there. So it's something that we could replicate on, let's say, softer on softer skills like visualization, developing dashboards, mm-hmm. or data literacy in general. Yeah. And in this regard, I have to highlight that this data literacy thing is one of the fundamental enablers, I think, in the creation of a data-driven culture, because, you know, like in any kind of national culture or job culture or regional culture, the language is always the vehicle or a key vehicle for culture, right? And in this case, this language is about speaking data. Right. And this ability to speak data and to communicate among one another with data, to argue, I think is going to be very, very important for us to instill, as you call it, this data-driven culture. The third phase in this journey is when we will face another type of fear, not the fear of data, but the fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. Perhaps you're familiar with this concept in the context of social media. This is when people who do not know how to play with data have the feeling that they're having less fun than the people who do, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the stage when data is not going to be about the data geeks, but it will be the kind of the new normal, right? And here again, we don't want to discriminate anyone who is not data literate, and we don't want to force anyone. But, you know, in view of the culture, I hope to be able to foster the feeling of proud to be tech, proud to be data-driven. Now, we're not there yet, but this is a kind of my ambition for this third phase. Right, that's still work in progress, but hopefully you'll get there. But exactly. What about the challenges that you face along the way? Could you reveal some of them and how you tackle them? Yes, so challenges, as you can imagine, there are quite a few. The first one that comes to my mind was related to this analytics platform that we introduced. As you can imagine, there, not everyone, was believed in it, right? There was some skepticism, simply because some colleagues or some teams did not really understand or grasp how to use these data and how to exploit this platform. So I had to knock on many teams or departments' door, and to offer our support to build these pilots and these proofs of concept. And of course, some of them were not interested, others were. And so my job was to make look good those who were open enough to be the first ones to try. And I believe that we've done a fairly good job in this regard. Another challenge that we were facing, and that was partly solved actually with this platform, but that we have still not completely fixed yet, is the fact that a lot of these data or the data sources were siloed. It means that they were in different systems, they were not connected, so isolated and managed or owned by different departments, right? So if I was interested in obtaining these data and using that, it could have been, or it was actually quite difficult to access it, right? I needed to apply for the data in this process that sometimes involved top executive, for security reasons and privacy and so on. It took a long time. And so the solution that we built to make it happen was to install a so-called data governance, right? So we defined, established new roles: data custodian, data steward. We established, rights and obligations for people involved in the use of data. So people who produce the data, people who own the data, people who consume the data. We also introduced standards and guidelines for data quality, for data trust levels, and so on. Now, I have to say that selling this concept was also quite a challenge, and data governance doesn't sound very attractive. It's not a very nice topic, to talk about in business, right? It's associated with bureaucracy, rules, and so on. But I have to say that tackling it for us was really worth it. And so far, we're not done yet, but I personally believe that it's already a game changer. So that was the other challenge that we were facing in instilling this data culture, in order for our people to be able to consume, to access these data. And it's also a non-negligible part in this journey.
Definitely. So, and one last question, Olivier. What are your future outlooks for data analytics at Henkel? What would your next steps be?
So now that we have gained some momentum and that the appetite for data and for using data in decision making, or the motivation around analytics is there, we have this kind of demand that needs to be matched with the supply. So we need to work on this side, and this will require the development of more skills, of more capabilities. We need to to have more, to provide more data sets, right? So we need to invest in data engineering, right, for the production of data. We also want to keep educating and upskilling the people, so that you know, the supply is coming also, the supply and skills is also coming from the business. So we also need to be to further improve the efficiency of our processes, and we need to build operating models around these analytics, around these tools, so that the data we're producing are properly packaged and made ready for consumption across many parts of the organization, so that they can, so that they do not spend so much time on connecting or preparing the data, but rather on consuming it, or consuming the data, or the insights, or perhaps for some, not deliver the data, but the business recommendations around it. So either automatically or in form of some kind of app or something like that. And this is the operating model that we need to build around the data and the analytics. So it's, as you can see, there's still some work to be done here. And to, you know, if I'm allowed to borrow the expression by Jim Collins in his book Good to Great, what we need to do now is turning the flywheel, you know, turning the flywheel, and continue to from our path from good to great.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you for providing your future kind of steps and giving us insight into the work you do at Henkel. I would also like to thank for being part of Data Innovation Summit 2020 and for doing this interview with me.
Thank you, Ivana. It's my pleasure. And again,
of course.
Thanks for having me with you.